Hi there and welcome to this month's Podiatry Hive video. I'm Greg Gunther, one of the founders of the Podiatry Hive, bringing you this topic for this month, which I hope you'll find helpful. I guess it comes about because many of us from time to time struggle with trying to put together some form of communications, I suppose, if you really want to dumb it down to its basic meaning. But how do we best communicate with our team, and what sorts of things should we, or what sort of strategy should we be thinking about if we want to really have an amazing staff meeting? So the topic for this month is consistent with some of the things that we've been talking about, and the theme for this particular month is how to crack an amazing staff meeting. And I want to take you through, I've got sort of 5 key areas that I want to share with you as to how you might want to think about going about that. And my advice to you is to really think about putting some of these things into place, experiment with them and see what works for you. But there's no doubt that the better we can communicate with our team, our people, the more likely it is that we're going to get some good benefit and good results coming back in return for that. So let's get stuck into it. The first thing that I want to think about, or have you think about, when we get onto this particular topic is, how can we make the staff meetings more productive? I think sometimes, and I've seen it regularly, when people get together, that the staff meetings tend to sort of become a little bit of a conversation, a little bit of a talk fest, and you get to the end of that meeting and there's a little bit of a hollow feeling, thinking, well, what did we really achieve in that session? And was there really some tangible outcomes that we feel like are going to be implemented and acted upon to take our business forward? So what in essence happens is we have this sort of sense of feeling that maybe we've wasted a lot of time in the course of having our little get together. So I think one of the first things we need to ask ourselves is everyone actually on the same page? Are we all actually understanding what it is that we are trying to achieve? I've seen a lot of people run their meetings and they're basically agenda-less. There is no real set agenda. And that sets up for a course where it's going to start to wander around somewhat aimlessly. So I think it's important that we actually do make sure that we're all sitting on the same page. That's the first thing that I'd really just like to challenge us with. We recently, or Troy Parsons, one of my co-founders of the Podiatry Hive, recently ran an alignment session, and it was quite successfully done with his team. And one of the things that he was really keen to achieve from that was to actually get people on the same page. Our black belt members, many of them now, have actually done this for themselves, and I've seen some really tremendous results coming from some of our black belt practices that have actually been doing some of this, and it's something that's now for them becoming a sort of a regular feature on their annual agenda for them to do. So what we really want to, when we say alignment of values, one of the things that or getting people on the same page, one of the things that we are really talking about is making sure that we've got this alignment of our values, and what I mean by that is how we all work together, matching up and aligning with our goals. What is it that we're actually trying to achieve? And so if you can just picture that and visualize that for a moment, you can just think, well, if we've got a disparity between the two of those, then there is going to be some conflict and disconnect, if you like, between, if I'm not really sure what my goals are, or indeed my values differ from that of the actual business itself, then it's going to be quite difficult for us to basically get things happening and everybody, if you like, rowing in the same direction. So really what getting people on the same page about is really trying to bring together these two things: the alignment of our values, how we actually work together, and our alignment of our goals, marrying up and aligning with our alignment of our goals. What are we actually trying to achieve? So how do we go about achieving alignment? Well, there's really 5 key points, in my view, that are very powerful and helpful to just go about doing that. So the first one is educating the team with your why. Now, for those of you who have recently joined, or even if you've been on for a little while, I'd suggest you go back to one of the very earlier webinars that Troy Parsons and myself ran. One of the very, very early, in fact, it might have been one of our first from memory that we actually did, where we talked about understanding our why. And most of us got into this business for a particular reason. If you go back even further before that, why did we actually become podiatrists in the first place? What is it that we actually were trying to achieve? And if we can really get down to the nub or the hub of understanding why is it that we're actually involved in this business, then and actually sharing that with your team and getting people to understand the business of why we're actually involved in doing all of this, then that can be really, really powerful in connecting our team. With the Podiatry Hive, for example, we have a very powerful why, and it's something we strongly connect with, and that is that we want to basically change the world through podiatry. Our belief is that podiatry is one of those professions that is undervalued largely, and very, very hidden in terms of the other professionals in the health profession understanding what we actually do. So we have a very, very strong and powerful why of wanting to actually be very, very significant and raise the bar of podiatry. And so we don't mind being a little bit disruptive about that. So it's our intent that we really want to get a strong collective of community together, and particularly in our black belt community, that's one of the key drivers for us in bringing together people at that level, so that community can very, very closely align and make a difference in the world of podiatry. So again, our why is really to make a difference in the world through podiatry. So it's a very, very strong why. The question I'm asking you is, what is your why? Why is it that you're actually involved in your business? And start to talk to your team about that and get that sort of emotional connection happening between you all. Share your current reality. I think it's important that we understand our current reality. It's really, I think, empowering for our people to understand, because it's not all beer and skittles. It's often there's times when things are not going along so well, and I think it's important that we don't necessarily hold that all to ourselves. If asking for help from your team is very, very empowering, and you'll be surprised just how many of them will in fact step up and want to try and help. So really opening up and talking about the current reality of the situation. So it might be that we need more patients, or perhaps our book isn't full. So we can talk about if we can't fill this book, then what are some of the strategies and tactics that we can talk about to maybe help bring that along. So it might be that we want to go and build some professional relationships with other health advisors perhaps. So opening up and sharing about that is very empowering, very powerful with your people. I want to clarify the desired outcomes, because sometimes, and again here, I think sometimes we feel like we've actually articulated a particular view or a point, but in fact you could actually ask 3 or 4 different people what they just heard you say, and you're going to get 3 or 4 different interpretations. So clarity is terribly important. It's an issue where we need to make sure our communications are understood by everybody. So and a very, very simple but effective way of doing that is just simply say, so what do people understand by that, or what is it that you just heard me say? Just get them to actually articulate and repeat that back to you is a very good way. And of course, if it's not the way you or the point that you're actually making, that's an opportunity then to discuss that and get that clarity around it. And that leads on actually to this one, my 4th point, which is really about providing an open forum. Open forums really are just simply opening up the floor to people, your team, because the reality is that they're right at the coalface. They're in their own individual areas. They're actually seeing things that we just simply can't see. So we need to create a safe environment where people are actually happy enough to open up and talk about their situations. So there might be some good things going on in their area, which would be helpful for everybody else to understand. There might be some frustrations, and this can be common between professional staff and administration staff. That's a tension point in a lot of businesses, not least podiatry. And these tension points, unless they're actually spoken about and openly and without any sort of fear of reprisal, which is often what happens, then it's a really powerful way of actually helping each other solve the problem. So, and I know in Troy's practice, and I talk about his practice because I'm very familiar with it, they have monthly get-togethers with the whole team, between their admin and their professional team. And that's their time when they start to talk about openly what some of the issues are that they've all got, where they need help, and what are some of the things that are going really well in their practice. So it's really those three things: what's going well, what is it that I need a bit of help with, and what have been some of the actual wins, or what are some of the things that I'm actually working on now, are sort of the things that they talk about. And it's a very, very powerful and very strong cross communication between the various areas of the business. So it avoids that silo effect. And the fifth point, and very, very important point, is that we need to develop action plans. Now, too often I see us fall over at this point. It really needs to get down to saying, well, okay, what do we need to do about that? So if there's a particular thing that we've been talking about, we need to identify, well, what is the specific action, if there indeed there is one. But and it's important for mine that these meetings are documented. And this is the point. This is the actual section, or this fifth point is the one where it's really important to document. So if we actually agree that something needs to be done, let's be clear on what that action is. Let's be clear on who is actually going to do that, and let's also be clear about when it needs to be done by, and who else it might actually impact upon. So recording that, and I actually like specific actions to be recorded in a separate table, so that they can then be taken from the meeting, and if necessary, the individuals take responsibility and schedule those actions into their own diaries. Then that can then be used as a report. So top of agenda at meetings then becomes the previous action list. So very first agenda item is, okay, let's go through the action list and see what the progress. Let's do a progress report. So hopefully things that were agreed to be completed by that next meeting are done. If not, there needs to be discussion about, or what were some of the issues with that, and what needs to happen to make sure that we do get it done. So developing action plans is a very, very important one that I think can actually start to get the rubber on the road. Everything before that is a really good discussion and gets down to some clarity, but without action, nothing ever happens. So one of the key things in actually achieving that then is something called like a weekly meeting agenda template. So I just said a moment ago how important it is to the first agenda item should actually be the action summary update. So that's where people who are responsible for specific actions get to report to the meeting on where they're up to with those actions, and hopefully if we can give it a tick, it's been completed. So developing an action meeting or an agenda template is very, very important. So, and a typical agenda template would look something like, as I said, the first item would be an action summary update. But then what I would be inclined to do is to think about the functional areas that are in my business. And if you don't understand what I mean by functional areas, again, go back to where Troy and I ran, I think we've had 2 webinars on this now, where about systems in our business, and functionality is just simply talking about the areas in my business. So it's things like, it might be things like administration, it might be things like accounting, it might be things like legal, it might be things like marketing, it might be things like professional development, training. So identify the key functional areas in your business, and what we like to do, or what I recommend, is that you actually have people who have coordination responsibilities for each of those areas. And again, rather than get into detail in this video, I refer you back to the functionality webinar that we ran earlier in the year, and that will describe to you. And also in the document library, you will also find some templated functionality charts for you to give you an idea of what I'm talking about there. So if you come up with your weekly meeting agenda template, then it becomes a very tight, very well run meeting. And if you're going to run these meetings weekly, this type of meeting weekly, then they need to be kept to a very finite time. And I would suggest a weekly meeting shouldn't last more than the order of 20 to 30 minutes. So it should be very, very quick. One of the things that I like with these types of meetings, when we do regular meetings like this, is that they're done standing up. So might need somebody who's recording minutes to have something to lean on and write up against, but these types of meetings are best run standing up, because it keeps you active, keeps your mind focused, and we're not really wandering around. It keeps us to time. So weekly meeting agenda is one of the things that I would encourage you to think about putting together. So just to recap, the 5 key areas are: we need to educate our team with our why. So go back and think about and reflect about why is it that you actually got involved in this business in the first place, because reigniting back with that is really, really important if we're going to get our team to come along with us and align with us. Secondly, we need to share our current reality. I think being open and transparent about that, being a little bit vulnerable even around a lot of those things, are terribly empowering for our team, and very, very powerful way to actually start to get people aligned around getting some common goals, and your team are more than willing to help, in my experience. Clarify the desired outcomes. There's often a lot of confusion about that. In fact, the research would suggest that many people in businesses today, if we go and talk to staff, actually don't have a very clear idea about what it is we're trying to achieve. So talk about those, and set some very clear goals and objectives as to what it is that you'd like to achieve. Fourth point is provide an open forum. So culturally, if you can actually create a safe environment for your team to be able to speak openly and contribute, you'll be amazed some of the things that you're going to find that they're bringing forward. So it's a really, really good thing, and creates a really warm environment for people if they feel like they're actually providing some value, and that's actually acknowledged and shared openly with everybody. And the fifth point, and very, very important point, is develop action plans. It's very, very important. A meeting effectively is just an event in which the minutes are kept, but we lose the time. The hours are actually lost. So we need to make it count. If you don't actually document, if you don't really record those action minutes, who's responsible, by when, what is the actual action that's being required, then effectively it'll just be another time that you've sat down and you've had a good conversation round table with everybody. So really make it count. That's one of the key points that comes out of making and having a cracking staff meeting. Thank you for listening to this video. I hope there's been something of value in there for you. Again, this topic weaves in and knits together with a couple of the other things. The two that I mentioned in this video are the systems videos or webinars that Troy and I put together some time ago. Go back to those and have a look at those and get an understanding. I'd strongly encourage, if you haven't put some functionality organization into your business, that you do so. And basically by doing that, you're going to start to get people taking some level of responsibility in their businesses. Have a look also in the document library. There's a number of documents in there around things like functionality charts that may be valuable for you to help you start to get your minds around some of this stuff. And probably the last point that I would make, if you're not having staff meetings now, then do so. It's a really, really good way to start to connect with your team, and of course what it reciprocates back with is you're demonstrating to them that you value their inputs as well. So if you're not doing them, strongly encourage you to do so. Thank you again for your time, and we look forward to continuing relationship with you all, and more videos and time that we can spend helping you in your own practices. Thank you once again.